Hey guys, hope you had a great Monday yesterday. This video is for Tuesday, August 9th, continuing in our 412 devotional series. So this morning, I was reading the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah is honestly one of my favorite books because you have Nehemiah, who's the king's cupbearer, one of the most trusted positions of being with the king. I mean, honestly, he had to taste things to see if the guy was going to die first. He was poisoned, but he also was kind of led in a lot of the political things as well. So he was a trusted advisor to the king. So this is Nehemiah. Well, Nehemiah hears in chapter 1 that the walls of Jerusalem are down, and he answers that call by saying, you know, I'm going to go and ask the king if I can go in and help rebuild the walls to protect Jerusalem. Well, honestly, one of the coolest things about chapter 1 is he says, I've never been sad before in the king's presence. And you think to yourself, like, never had a bad day, but no, he had some bad days. But at the same time, he kept his joy from the Lord up, so that it didn't even seem like he was having a bad day. So the king notices something's wrong, and he asks, "Well, what's going on?" And so Nehemiah says, how can I be happy when my brethren are in shackles and they're just kind of out there for anybody to attack? So he kind of goes through that. He gets some people. The king says, hey, I'm going to send you kind of with some gifts and things like that to help rebuild the wall, with some supplies to rebuild the wall. And so then you come to Nehemiah chapter 4, and there's some opposition that comes to the building of the wall. In fact, if you have a Bible that has little notes in the margin, it'll say opposition of the wall or something along those lines. So as he comes through chapter 4, now remember, obviously the chapters headings aren't inspired. Okay, it's not chapter 4. It wasn't like Nehemiah was writing down like, and I'll start this one chapter 4. But in chapter 4 is kind of when that opposition hits Nehemiah. So Sanballat and Tobiah come after Nehemiah, and they tell him, like, they're making fun of him, like, the old Bible days jokes, like if a fox were to run on the wall it would fall down, things like, we're like, what? But they were oh no, it's making fun of us. So anyways, so Nehemiah has to deal with all this. They're writing letters, they're telling people, it's kind of coming to him, and he stops and he prays and he asks God what to do, and God pretty much is just going to say, keep going forward, do what you're supposed to do. And so then in Nehemiah chapter 4, it's about halfway through the chapter, is one of my favorite verses, because the people of Jerusalem kind of just look to Nehemiah and they go, what are we supposed to do? There's these threats. What happens if they attack us? And Nehemiah, he kind of sets them up like, half of you are going to be guarding the other half while they build the wall, and then we'll switch about midday. And it's really cool because one of the verses he talks about, he says, do not be afraid of them. And then there's this key phrase. It says, remember the Lord. And he says, and fight for your brethren, for your houses, for your wives. So in other words, here's what my challenge or my application to you today is on this Tuesday. Remember the Lord. Remember what he has done for you. Remember how good he is. Remember how powerful he is. Remember how we talked about God on Sunday. Remember, that's the one who is your Father. So remember that. Remember him and stand up for what's right. Fight for what you know is right. It was right to protect their houses and their wives and their families and their fellow brethren. It was right to do that. So stand up, do what's right today, no matter what anybody else in your class, in your work, no matter where you're at, what they do. Stand up and do what's right no matter what, because it's time for us as 412 to remember the Lord.